Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our live webinar on the role of chambers in fostering apprenticeships in Europe. My name is Letizia, and I am a member of the Apprenticeship Support Services team at eChorus. My colleagues Milda and Luca will be helping me today for the facilitation of this webinar. We have a very experienced list of speakers for you today, including a representative from the European Commission, Norbert. Also with us today are experts and speakers Adam Gajek, Iris Hoffeld, Melina Schneider, and Csaba Ferenc. They will be leading the webinar today and answering your questions. While waiting for everyone to join us, I will spend a couple of minutes to inform you about some technical aspects of this session. So you should see on your screen to the left of the presentation and to your right, the GoToWebinar control panel, where you can use the raise your hand button to engage with us. Ask questions using the questions box and select your audio mode. Just for your information, all attendees are muted automatically on arrival to this session. You can listen to this webinar using your computer's audio on your mobile phone, so please select your preferred option on the audio menu. If you select telephone, please follow the instructions provided in the registration confirmation email. If you experience audio or any other technical issues now or at any time during the webinar, please click on the raise your hand button or send us a message in the questions box, and we will contact you separately to solve this issue. As I have mentioned, we will be using the questions box to collect your questions during the webinar today. If you have any questions, please type them in the questions box at the bottom of the control panel to the right of your screen, and Luca and Milda will do their best to respond to you individually, or if the topic of your question may be of interest to all attendees, we will forward your question and our answer to everyone. We will also invite you to a Q&A session and a short feedback survey in the end of the webinar. This webinar session will be recorded, and the webinar recording and presentation will be uploaded on the EAFA website and will be shared with you by email in the upcoming days. So, as I mentioned before, we have a packed agenda for you today. Thus, without further ado, without further delay, I give the floor to Norbert, who will introduce the topic in question. Norbert, take it away.
Letizia, many thanks and welcome to all participants to this 10th webinar. And we are very happy that this 10th webinar is focusing on the role of chambers. We have, as you know, this webinar is part of the activities we do under the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, which exists already since 2013. But because of COVID and because of the current situation, we have launched a number of important policy documents on the 1st of July, particularly to address the youth unemployment. And in this context, unfortunately, the figures go up again in many countries. And to avoid the same situation as we had in the financial crisis, we have also thought that we need to give a new boost to apprenticeship again, like in previous years, because we know the apprenticeships are the bridge from education and schools to work. And that's why we have on the 15th of July, together with our commissioner and some ministers and high-level speakers, started what we call the renewed European Alliance for Apprenticeships. And we have so many stakeholders contributing to the alliance, but I would say that chambers play a real crucial role when it comes to apprenticeship. Not in all countries, but in some countries for sure. And I think also that in some other member states, there is a potential for a stronger role for chambers to support young people and to create the bridge between, which we most often call the two worlds, the world of education and the world of business. Now, I will not say much more because we have excellent experts now with us. And that's why I just wanted to welcome all of you to this webinar. I think it is really well prepared, and I'm sure you will enjoy the different perspectives, because now we have Adam, and I'm very happy that you're with us. First of all, to give, let's say, a broader overview of what is the role of Euro chambers and from a European dimension. And then we have really three, let's say, on the ground people who know best what's going on in their countries, in Austria, Melina, we have also, as Letizia already said, Shaba from Hungary and Iris from Luxembourg. So I think we have strong players there. And having said that, I immediately give the floor to Adam because he knows best what's going on at European level and how chambers can actually help to reduce the gap and concretely actually make it happen that the apprenticeships continue to be a model, because we see now that particularly SMEs have difficulties, but also big companies nowadays. We have some figures from some countries where we fear that the numbers go down because of the corona crisis and the impact on the economy. So I think we really have to convince employers that it's an investment in the future. But please, Adam, you have the floor now. Thank you.
Okay, I'm muted. Thank you, Norbert, very much for a very nice and warm welcome, and thank you for appreciating the role of businesses in provision of apprentices, which we also find is very important, and we are also very happy to inform our audience, other stakeholders as well, but also fellow colleagues from the business community around Europe about the role that the chambers play in provision of apprenticeships. So now a few words about your chambers and also our members and the role that chambers play in provision of apprenticeships. So if I can get the next slide. So a few words about our organization. So Eurochambers is an association of chambers of commerce in industry, European national chambers of commerce and industry. We have 45 members from 43 countries, since like some members do not represent on their countries, but are a little bit more specific. What is important is that through all of them, we have a network of 1,700 chambers that account for 20 million businesses. And most of these businesses are small and medium enterprises, which is also one of our main focuses on our policies. So we represent them on a political level here, but also conduct lots of projects and also take care of exchange of best practices between our members. So please, next slide. Beginning with to begin our presentation of chambers, I wanted to show you some numbers. These are from a European Parliament of Enterprises, a flagship event of Eurochambers that is supposed to happen every second year, but it was supposed to happen next month, but due to the COVID situation, we're having an online event instead. And every 2 years, members of this parliament who are enterprises representing European countries are asked about different policies. And these are recent answers from 2018 concerning work-based learning. And once you see here, questions like, for example, is the business community sufficiently involved in education policy? For example, developing education and vocational education training curricula, then most of them, almost 80%, says, no, this involvement is not sufficient. Or another question, which is something I find very important, is that if it's harder to recruit staff with right skills now more than 5 years ago, and now almost 85% people answered yes. And we ask that specific question at every parliament, and every parliament, the number of people confirming that this is hard and harder is quite high. What means that we are not closing the skills gaps, but unfortunately it goes another way. So if you see like other numbers, most of them account for the fact that businesses feel a need to be involved and have an influence on the education, and the best answer for that is the work-based learning. Please, the next slide. So how are chambers involved in apprenticeships? There is like lots of activities and lots of projects. To start with, there are informal ones like career guidance, organizing events for students or young graduates. But there are also things that contribute to policies, like for example, skills forecasting tools, like for example, very well known tool Excelsior in Italy, or skills assessment like Talented Check that Melina is going to speak to you more later on. There's also other things like, for example, provision of training courses and education, vocational education itself. So there's like lots of various involvements which are direct or indirect, but all of them focus on provision of quality vocational education activities. Please, the next one. Concerning some numbers of our members, is that 80% of chambers of commerce and industry are involved in education training. What means that so many, like 4 of 5 our members are involved in provision of vocational education. So this is like a very high priority for us. And almost 50% of them deliver initial or continuous vocational education on training. And this accounts for almost 2 million people that receive this training from the Chambers network, and also 600,000 apprenticeships that are directly managed by Chambers, these numbers make our network really well experienced with provision of apprenticeships. So please, the next one. Yeah, and to finish my part, I wanted to give you a short reasoning why we chose these 3 examples. So our colleagues from Luxembourg, Hungary, and Austria, we wanted to first of all have systems where involvement of chambers in provision of apprenticeships is large, it's substantial, and also the differences between countries are big because we have countries from Western Europe. Hungary is an example of Central Eastern Europe, and also the size of the countries is different, and also their economic situation. So with this, you're going to have a good overview of what is happening there. And without further delay, I would like to ask the first colleague to start a presentation today. So Iris, Iris Savold, who is an advisor at the Luxembourg Chambers of Commerce and Industry. So Iris, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam, for the introduction, and hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar on the role of chambers in fostering apprenticeship in Europe. So I have the pleasure to start today, and I will first of all outline the key elements of how we as the Chamber of Commerce Luxembourg play an essential role in the Luxembourgish apprenticeship system. So after situating the apprenticeship system within the Luxembourgish education system, I'll then give you some insight into it. Sorry. So last but not least, I'll then deep dive into some added value services we offer to our member companies in relation with the dual VAT system, so as to share our learnings and best practices. So let me just start with briefly explaining the role of the Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce. So the IVAT system in Luxembourg is based on a partnership between the state, represented by the Ministry of National Education, the employers' organizations such as the Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Chamber of Employees. It is regulated by law, and the Chamber of Commerce acts as a guarantor of the quality of the apprenticeship pathway in the professions of the sectors falling within its competence. So as you can see on this slide, our role as a chamber is very diverse and includes missions on the strategic, on the supervision, as well as on the management levels. So on a strategic level, for instance, we recently achieved to make some important changes to the law in favor of our member companies. So we reduced the contract period from N+2 to N+1. We added 2 additional reasons that a company can invoke so as to end apprenticeship contracts. And we finally managed to reduce the length of the CCP diploma from 3 to only 2 years. So these changes offer more flexibility, to our member companies, which can play an important role in encouraging them to take over apprentices. At chapter 4 of this presentation, I'll also deep dive into some supervision and some management level examples. So this slide provides a pretty good overview of our current education system here in Luxembourg. The diplomas you could obtain via an apprenticeship are the CCP, the DAP, as well as some of the DT diplomas that you can see here on the upper right corner of the slides. So it's called a professional regime, and it ranges from the 10th to the 12th grade for the CCP DAP diplomas, or to the 13th grade for the DT diplomas. So I'll now give you some insight into the dual VET system. So just to make sure that we are all on the same page here, the main characteristic of the dual VET system is that an apprentice will split his training time between the theory at school and putting it into practice at the company. So as you might know, we went through quite a painful reform of the entire VET system in Luxembourg during this last decade. So what's really important to understand here is that for decades, the entire IVET system was regulated by laws that barely changed since World War II. Thus, back in 2008, we were still using the classical point system in which apprentices were taking classes and were evaluated on a scale from 0 to 60, with 30 points being the passing grade. So then the reform came into place with the law of December 19, 2008, replacing the classical point system by the competence-based system. It also replaced the classes by modules, which are composed of competencies that are either acquired or not acquired by the apprentice. So we encountered many issues with this new system, and the law of July 12, 2019 then reintroduced a point system within the competence-based system. So now, with the help of Laetitia, I would very much like to hear your thoughts. What do you think the main reason for this policy reversal was?
Thank you very much, Iris. Now, could you all please take part in the short poll regarding your thoughts on the recent policy reversal? So all you have to do is click on the on what you think is the correct answer. So it can either be a lack of a complete pilot project, a lack of involvement of all key partners right from the beginning, or a lack of full range information campaign towards all impacted parties. Please don't be shy. I see quite a lot of you are answering. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for answering this question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the answer. Or maybe Laetitia, I'll let you.
Yeah, so as you can see, 91% of the public thought that a lack of involvement of all key partners right from the beginning was the correct answer. Iris, what do you have anything to add? Yes,
sure. So thank you all for your answers. And I have to admit here that this was actually a bit of a tricky question, since all the answers were actually correct answers, and thus those represent the 3 main reasons for this policy reversal. So many issues, only appeared on the spot when running the new system. So a pilot project in 1 or 2 vocational trainings could have uncovered these issues and solved them before applying the new system to the 119 vocational trainings. Also, some partners, they felt that they should have been involved much earlier in the process of designing the new IVET system. And many of the teachers, they felt left out and thus did not always adopt the new system as easily as it was expected. So we can move to the next slide. Thank you. So as you can see here, we manage all the apprenticeship contracts arising from 30 Luxembourgish and over 50 cross-border apprenticeship diplomas. Those cover the HoReCa sector, the industry sector, the commercial sector, as well as the health sector. So right now we are also developing a bunch of new DT level vocational trainings that correspond to an important need from the Luxembourgish economy. So yeah, let's now deep dive a bit into 3 services that we as a chamber provide to our member companies training apprentices. So first of all, the train the tutor. So as part of our supervision mission, with relation to quality assurance, we provide a train the tutor training to our member companies. So it's a mandatory training for any company that wishes to obtain the right to train apprentices. It consists of 3 full days as well as a half-day follow-up, and it enables the tutors to acquire the necessary pedagogical and practical knowledge, which will help them, succeed in their role as tutors. So the Train the Tutor program allows us to maintain high training quality within the companies and thus helps preserving the value of the dual VET diplomas. So on the next slide, you will see that since the launch back in 2010, we already trained over 5,000 tutors in either French, German, or Luxembourgish sessions. And on the right side, you can see an example of how a certificate, a Train the Tutor certificate looks like. Another service that we provide to our member companies, but also to any person interested in doing an apprenticeship, is the talent check. So it strengthens us in our management mission of supporting companies and apprentices. So the talent check consists in a voluntary skills assessment in 10 fields of competencies, many of which are not covered in school. On the one hand, it allows future apprentices to discover their talents so as to better understand, what professions they could match with their skills. But on the other hand, it also facilitates the recruitment process for the companies and saves them precious time. So the talent check takes a maximum of 87 minutes, as you can see here on the slide, and each candidate receives a certificate right after the session. This service is entirely free for both apprentices and companies. So what's really worth mentioning here is that we discovered this tool thanks to our Austrian colleagues from the Austrian Chamber of Commerce during our yearly meeting between German-speaking chambers, in which best practices are shared and new projects are presented. So I believe that this is a nice example on how we can learn from each other and share successful methods or tools. So since the launch of the talent check here in Luxembourg in spring 2016, we already had over 300 sessions with about 4,300 participants. And again, on the right side, you can see a picture of how a talent check certificate looks like. So another really important mission for our chamber at the supervision level consists in the promotion of the apprenticeship system on a national scale. So in addition to several campaigns run with institutional partners, we built the winwin.lu website, which is a one-stop platform in terms of apprenticeship. So we use it, to inform, to build awareness, as well as to improve the perception of the dual VET system among the public, but of course also among our member companies. Furthermore, winwin.lu also provides access to the secure tutor platform, to the online talent check registration, as well as to the online train the tutor registration. So here you can see some examples of promotional campaigns that we run nationwide through the main papers, on radio channels, as well as in movie theaters. So I really hope that you enjoyed my part of the presentation. I'll now end it by showing you our latest promotional video before getting to Melina's section of the presentation on the chambers in Austria. Thank you very much.
Great. Great. Thank you, Iris, for this presentation. Very informative and very interesting. Thank you very much. So now we move from Luxembourg to Austria, and Melina Schneider, who is head of the Educational Policy Department in the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber, is going to present us their experience in provision of apprenticeships. Melina, floor is yours. Melina, I'm afraid we cannot hear you.
Hello to everybody. I'm pleased to be here and to share our experiences of Austria with all of you. So let me start. What is going on in Austria? I will focus in my presentation first, what is the Austrian Economic Chamber, the Austrian Chamber of Commerce, what is the dual system in Austria, what it is about, how it works, and then we are talking more in detail what is exactly the role of the Austrian chambers in apprenticeship training and what other services we are offering our companies and young people in Austria, like Iris already mentioned, for example, the talent checks. And in the end, I will show you the a quick overview about our international projects, what we have in other countries introducing a dual education training system. To start, I want to mention some of the key facts, what is interesting to see about Austria when it comes to vocational education and training. First, you can see here that we have a lower youth unemployment rate than the average in Europe with 8%. And this you can really see in the countries where is a work-based training implemented or apprenticeship training, where takes a lot of the training place in the company, the youth employment rate is lower than in other countries. And just to mention the little graph there, if you look now at all 15 years olds in Austria, yeah, the 15-year-old pupils, you see that nearly 80% are in vocational training, either like 38% in school-based VET training or 38% in apprenticeship training. And it's only a little bit more than 20% who are in the academic school, like high school. Next slide, please. So here you see our education system. Don't worry, I won't start to explain here every part of it in detail. I just concentrate today on this orange part, apprenticeship training, company part-time vocational school. Thanks. So what is the Austrian Economic Chamber? We are established by law and we have compulsory membership. That means every company in Austria is member of the Austrian Economic Chamber. So therefore we have 500,000 members and they are divided into different industry sectors. We see this in a minute. And on the top of this, we have certain educational facilities what we as a chamber run. So we run universities of applied sciences, we have VET schools ourselves, and we have a huge adult learning institution. on the top of that, we also provide other services like trade promotion organization. We have in 70 countries worldwide offices of the Austrian Economic Chamber. Thank you. Here you see these 7 different branches. So our 500,000 members are divided into these 7. So either you're a crafts company, or you're commerce, or you belong to industry, or you're in the sector of tourism or information and consulting. So what is the so-called dual system in Austria? It's very simple. You can see that the training takes place in 2 different sites. So one is the company, and this is the majority, it's 8%, and 20% is the vocational school. So in total 100, and you can see that there's a lot of training on the job. So we have in Austria more than 200 different apprenticeship occupations. So you can choose between 200 different jobs. And the most of them are between 3 or 3.5 years long, the training. But we have also some who are only 2 years, and we have longer ones who are like 4 years. So here you can see the 10 apprenticeship occupations most frequently chosen, and divided. There's a difference between women and men, but you see that these 10 job profiles are like more than 60% choose among this. So between women, it's like more typical hairdresser, cooking, pharmaceutical, retail trade. By young men is often metal technology, motor vehicle engineering, electrical engineering, bricklayer. So it depends. And you can also see here that we have nearly the double men apprentices than female. So we have like, yeah, over 70,000 male apprentices and only like 35,000 female apprentices. Here now you really understand the word, why it's called dual system. So you have 2 different responsibilities. The one is the Ministry of Economy, who is responsible for the training part in the company. And you have the Ministry of Education, who is responsible for the vocational schools who are part-time. And what is really interesting, you can see you have first the training company, and then you have the apprenticeship office. This apprenticeship office is in our chamber. So the training companies goes to this apprenticeship office for their accreditation, for the registration of the contract, etc. I will explain on the next slide. And then you see this is like the apprenticeships offices, and then there is the Federal Advisory Board on Apprenticeship, and this is an institution, a board who really is responsible for the new job profiles and for modernizing the old profiles. So if we want to adapt something in our job curricula, it's the Federal Advisory Board on Apprenticeship Training. We will also see in a minute. So here, it's like a summary of the most important facts. But one thing I want to stress out, like the apprenticeship training is really a demand-led system. If the company says, okay, we want to train this year 5 apprentices, then he starts training 5. Then he can finish the training in 3-4 years, and then also say, okay, this year I'm not training apprentices because I don't have so much demand. So it's a difference between the school system. This is always a supply-led system, and here it's a demand-led system. So now we come to our second poll today. So I want you to answer the question, in your opinion, what are the 2 most important characteristics of dual wet out of the following 4 statements? Either constant adaptation of the training content to the market needs, the majority of apprenticeship takes place in the company, a well-balanced contractual relationship between the company and the apprentice, the systemic interplay between the economy and the education sector. So please.
Thank you very much, Marina. Just to let you know that you can click more than one option in this poll. Thank you very much all for answering. I see many of you have gone for the last option. I'll be closing the poll in a minute. Okay, thank you very much. So here you can see the results, Marina, and thank you all for taking part. So as you can see, most of you have responded that the systemic interplay between the economy and the education sector is the correct answer.
Yeah, you can really see here like all the 4 answers are important like factors to have a good function dual system. So there is no like you really had a good feeling about in your answers. So we can continue. Yeah. So here you can now see what is exactly the role of the chamber in this whole system of dual wet. So like I said already before, we have these apprenticeship offices. So when our company starts to train an apprenticeship, he has to have an accreditation. So this accreditation is given by us, okay, to say, okay, you are allowed to train apprentices. And then also the approval and registration of the apprenticeship contract, who is between the apprentice and the company, is in our apprenticeship office done. Then we have also the organization of the apprenticeship examination. So this is like the test in the final examination in the end of the training. And then we have also things like administration of financial incentives for training companies, and also the examination of the master crafts person. This is a qualification of higher wet. Thank you. Here you can see the circle, how it works when there's a new job profile coming. So there is the initiative by the companies, and they say we need a coding, we need a new coder. And then there is the development of draft training regulations, and there's the discussion in the Federal Advisory Board of Apprenticeship. And here this curricula is designed and discussed between the economic sector and the education world. And then it's the Ministry of Economy adopts the training regulation, and the Ministry of Education adopts the framework of the curriculum for the wet school. So it's really goes hand in hand from the beginning between these 2 worlds. Thank you. So just to give you some practical examples, we just have like introduced our new job, application development coder, but also in the really classical construction industry field, we have like modernized our existing apprenticeship profiles. Like they got also now in the 2nd year a tablet, and they have online training involved. So this is like done in a regular basis. Every job profile is like modernized exactly to the needs of the market. Now I want to say also what we are else offering is like the career guidance centers. So this is like talent checks, like Iris mentioned, exactly what we have in our country. And we are very happy that Luxembourg is it now also doing, is this that every 15-year-old people goes into this talent center, and they are like can test their talents like in a practical way and in a theoretical way with questions on the computer. And then you get a profile, what are your talents and what can you do to give a career guidance. Next slide, please. And this is the very basis. We have also an online career information website. Yeah, it's BKT. It works in 7 languages, and it has more than 2,000 occupations on it. And you can really click and see, okay, what is this profession about and what is this profession about? And there we have like over 1 to 1.2 million visitors per year. Now, just to come to the end, I want to give you a short overview of what's our project ongoing in other countries. So we have in 7 countries going on projects, starting from China to Slovenia, Slovakia, in Serbia, Croatia, and there we have started always with small pilot projects, and the company saying we need a job profile, for example, electrical engineer. And then we started with the local companies and the local education authorities there to see, okay, how can we increase the part of the practical work-based training, and that the training is not only taking place in the vet school, but it's always taking place in the company also. Please, the next slide. So what happened in this project, we have trained now more than 10,000 young people in approximately 70 adapted apprenticeship occupations, and there are more than 600 local companies involved, and also like more than 50 Austrian subsidiaries like abroad. Next slide. So what we have learned there, and this is the last thing I want to share with you, is that you need certain success factors that you can transfer a dual system to another country. And our goal objective is always there to have a local recognized qualification who is adapted to the local market needs. It's never the same system like we have it in Austria 100%, because this wouldn't work. So you have these 7 success factors, and if you take these factors and try to implement them, then we can guarantee that you have a good dual system in place. I just want to mention one is that there must be ownership by the company and social partners. It can be an intermediate organization like a chamber, it can be also another organization, but who is like the spokesperson between the world of the company who knows the needs and the world of education and education ministry, school, and who can translate these 2 worlds and bring together. This is really one of the most key success factors. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please. Thanks.
Thank you, Melina, very much for this excellent intervention. So now we will move a little bit south to Austria. So Csaba Ferenc, who is the coordinator for vocational education, international vocational education affairs at the Hungarian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Csaba, please.
Thank you very much, Adam. Welcome to my section. After a short introduction on the new Hungarian VET system, I will focus on 3 chamber activities that have significant impact on the quality of the apprenticeship. Next, please. Significant changes, high expectations, and confidence in the chamber. The owner of a small restaurant in Budapest summed up with these words very well a few weeks ago the present situation of the Hungarian training companies, mainly SMEs. She referred to the new Hungarian VET system that was launched at the beginning of this year. It will gradually replace the former one, bringing us novelties in almost every aspect of our VET. Due to the limited time frame, let me mention only some very practical examples. Training companies can also teach vocational theory, not only the practical part of the training. By signing the new type of apprenticeship contract, students gain a special employee status at the hosting companies. A new subsidy system for training companies will be launched at the beginning of the next year, and enhancing quality has become one of the key priorities of the new system. Traditionally, the Hungarian Chamber of Commerce and Industry plays a vital role in shaping our VET system. It has a wide range of VET-related public law tasks, from career orientation to adult training. Today, I will focus on 3 of them that contribute to enhancing and sustaining the quality of the apprenticeship system. Next, please. Yes, okay. Dual Training Advisors Network is responsible for running and broadening the apprenticeship scheme. 150 advisors at 23 territorial chambers keep everyday contact with all the training companies and vocational schools in order to provide services on the same high level of proficiency all over the country. Our colleagues work by the same principles, workflows, use the same documentation and IT network. We regularly train and examine them. Next, please. The graph demonstrates the effectiveness of the network. Our colleagues have greatly contributed to the remarkable increase in number of apprentices since the network was established in 2001. Next, please. In the new WET system, it's especially important for us to follow our main principle, that is to provide customer-oriented, tailor-made services at the right time. For example, in case of potential training companies, it means we highlight benefits for them, present best practices, give information on the legal, financial, and professional frameworks regulations. Moreover, we not only prepare them for the accreditation as a training company, but perform the accreditation process itself. In case of training companies, we help them run their training smoothly. We assist in solving common day vet-related issues, problems. We mediate between parties, continuously give information on novelties, and regularly evaluate and control their training. Be it a potential or already a training company, it's very important that we ensure them they can rely on us during the whole period of the training. As I mentioned, enhancing quality is one of the key priorities of the new system. In order to support our training companies in providing quality apprenticeship, we are broadening and strengthening our services in this field. Let me mention a very practical example. Each training company has to have a so-called training program stipulated in the new VET Act. It has to be elaborated on the basis of the new content-related national standards in accordance with the new school vocational programs, and preferably by using learning outcomes method, as it is a tough challenge for the majority of companies. We are training our advisors in order that they will be able to help training companies elaborate this document. It means they will give information on the new method, on the new approach of learning outcomes. Also give information on the aims, structure, content of the training program. If it's necessary, our colleagues will be able to sit down with our trainers and take part directly in the elaboration process. They can involve special experts and use specially developed by us training program software. I mentioned national standards. In this field, sectoral skills councils play important role. They are formed by companies of the given sector, ministries and social partners delegate members to this platform. Maintenance of operation is one of the key responsibilities of our chamber. These councils monitor the sectoral development, the sectoral financial, economical, technological trends, and gather future labor market demands. On the basis of this information, they are officially entitled to elaborate and submit proposals for the government for development key areas of our WET. The new training content related national standards and the new registry of qualifications are good examples for the activity and importance of these councils, as they were elaborated on the basis of the council's proposals. Competitions. According to our experience, vocational competitions are effective tools for enhancing attractiveness and public esteem of the vocational path. For example, since we organized the finals of our national competitions into the festival with stunting show elements, it has been the largest and one of the most popular wet event in Hungary. Every year, it lures masses of the target group. For example, the last one was visited by more than 20,000 senior grade primary school pupils. We have, next please, we have remarkable international results, gold, silver, bronze medals. Next please. And even a successfully organized Euroskills 2 years ago in Budapest. To have these successes and an elite group of young professionals are great, but far more important, the knowledge and experience we gain through participating in the WorldSkills, Euroskills movement, we can integrate into the VET system, thus enhancing the overall quality and effectiveness of our VET system. Another beneficial impact of the national competitions is that we can have more students, but not only, more motivated students in the vocational path. Let me finish my presentation with a good example for that. After our participant won the first Hungarian WorldSkills gold medal, the number of applications for his vocational program at the school where he was prepared increased by 30%. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much for your attention. We now would like to give you a short time to answer your questions. So the first question we have received is for you, Medina. Someone asks, could you please tell us the time framework for a curriculum to be developed and approved after the first suggestion from employers' labor market / labor market, sorry.
Yeah, it takes approximately like 6 months, but it's really depending also, because sometimes you have more discussions between different sectors in the industry, for example, and then also between the employers' organizations and the employees' organizations. And so I would say in general, it takes from 6 months to 10 months.
Okay, thank you very much, Medina. The second question we've received is for actually all of you. What can we do with the new professions that are going to develop? Because new technologies require schooled employees. Education needs to be developed and that takes time. How do you work on that? If anybody would like to answer this question.
I mean, I would say like really one of the positive things of the apprenticeship training is that you can adapt faster the market needs, because you have the 80% of the training in the company, so you don't have to wait until the whole school system is adapted, because exactly like the system is done, it makes it possible that you can adapt the training regulation of the part in the company on a regular basis in 6 months, for example. Otherwise, it would never be exactly trained this what the market needs, because the economy and the technology progress is really fast, and nobody knows what we are going to need in 5 years, which program coding language. Maybe there's a new one. I mean, I can't tell you now, and also the companies can't tell you now what is needed in 5 years. So this is exactly why the system was created like this, that you have more flexibility. than the normal school system.
Thank you, Melina. Maybe I could also add, I think this is a very interesting question because basically, exactly as Melina already explained, I also believe that this shows that the entire dual system has a great future ahead, because I think we just saw now with the entire impact that COVID had, we need to be flexible, we need to be able to react fast, and we need to make sure that what the companies need right now, we don't only provide it in 5 years from now, otherwise it doesn't make sense. So I believe that in that sense, the dual VET system will for sure needs to be developed, and also has a great future ahead.
If I can only add one thing. Oh, Csaba was first, so I'll just conclude.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to add on a small thing. I mentioned sectoral skills councils. We created these councils in order to quickly react to the changes in trends and in demands of the market. So this is in our country works rather very well. They gather information from the labor market and quickly channel it to the ministry. That's the reason why ministries delegate members to these councils. They can direct information get from the companies itself. And the second one, I also agree with that dual training system has a great future, and for example, it could survive even the COVID crisis. For example, in Hungary, for not more than 1.5 months, we could shift more than 70% of all training companies to the digital platform. And I suppose that this experience we can use in the future in the similar pandemic situations. Thank you very much.
So very shortly, I just add that what we should do to make sure that our curricula are prepared for this job of future is to listen to the companies and their needs, to provide the skills which are needed in the labor market. And also it's very good to work on tools for skills forecasting, and also base the curricula on the results, because often they go like two different lines. They are the results, but then the curricula really need to be updated to what the research says, and also what company says, and then we can prepare quite well for at least the nearest future.
Great, thank you all for answering these questions. We're actually running out of time, and we might not have time to answer any more. So I just wanted to say that we will make sure to answer these questions in the follow-up email after the webinar, so please send them through. And I would like to ask you to spare a couple of minutes to respond to a feedback survey that we've prepared. So your feedback is really important to us and will help us to improve future webinars for you. So if you could just spare a couple of minutes to answer the following questions. So overall, how satisfied are you with this webinar? You can answer between very dissatisfied or very satisfied. We will give you a couple of minutes to answer, sorry. I can see most of you are very satisfied, thank you. Great, thank you very much. We would also like to know if this webinar will be useful for your future work. You can answer to a great extent, somewhat, very little, not at all. Okay, thank you very much. The next question we would like to know is whether this webinar met your expectations. We will give you a couple of seconds to answer, and then we'll close this poll. I'm happy to see that it did mostly. Thank you. Just a few more questions, sorry. A couple more questions. So how did you find the length of the webinar? Was it too long, about right, or too short? Great. Thank you very much for answering. And finally, which part of the webinar did you like the most? So the content of the webinar, the visual presentation, the webinar delivery, the participant interaction tools, or maybe you don't know, you just liked it in general. Just to let you know, you can click more than one option in this poll. Okay. Thank you very much for answering these questions. And your suggestions are really important to us. So if you have any more suggestions on how to further improve this webinar, please write them in the question box and we will address these. So that brings us to the end of our webinar. And thank you all for your attention and participation. We really hope that you found it useful. Do also keep an eye on the Apprenticeship Support Services website for any news and further information about the upcoming webinars. I would also like to say a big thank you to our speakers, Adam, Iris, Melina, and Shaba, and also Norbert for being with us today, and to everyone who joined us and your active participation throughout this webinar. The recording and the presentation will be shared with you in the upcoming days. And thank you again for your participation, and I hope to see you in our future webinars. Have a nice day. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you.
Thank you.